Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. It's interesting times ahead for innovation, with mining company Exxaro Resources allocating 900 million rand to innovation initiatives, while JSE-listed ELB Engineering Services believes it can push South Africa into the fourth industrial revolution. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks very much, Sashni.
Can you tell us about Exxaro's investment into digitalisation and their innovation initiatives?
Yes, they've been letting this be known for some time, that they are very keen on making sure that innovation is an imperative in their business. But they came out more clearly than ever at the last presentation, in which they said they are going to make an announcement about a new business relationship that they have, which will mean that they will not only be big in renewable energy and coal mining, because they're already in renewable energy, but that they would also be into food security and also water security, but not in terms of food security as a farmer, but as a supplier of technology that optimizes farming. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of fourth industrial generation technology they come out with, but it's obviously going to be a mixture of the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence and 3D digitization and all the rest that's coming through. So we see that people are seeing that South Africa has actually fallen behind the rest of the world in the fourth industrial revolution. It just seems to be going over our heads here. We've got so much politics, we've got so many other things to think about, that we don't realize how quickly the world is moving. And you know, when I heard the other day that the great steps in 3D, we wonder why it hasn't actually hit us as hard as it's hitting the rest of the world. And it's the same with this technology. So although you see Exxaro, which is ostensibly a coal mining company in the main, and a very strong one at that, because it's got long-term contracts with Eskom as a supplier. It does very well there. It's also exporting coal, and it's investing heavily in coal. They want to make sure that they get an infinite horizon, because obviously if you're in mining, you've got a finite horizon. But with coal mining, the horizon is even more finite because of the attitude to carbonization of the world, climate change, etc. So they're making sure that their shareholders will not have any bumps along the way, that they are getting good dividends now, there's a good flow, that while they've got that money, they can take an amount like 900 million rand, which is really small in the picture of what they spend on coal. So it's not as capital intensive. We can see this new technology era we're going to is not as capital intensive by a long shot as mining. And they can afford then to go in early now and start setting up partnerships, because they don't believe in doing it on their own. We saw with the renewable energy, you know, they set up a partnership with Tata Power. So there will be similar partnership initiatives, and they needn't even be big names at this stage, but they've been doing a scan of the people doing all these technologies, and they've obviously been impressed by certain potential partners, and we will hear going forward who they link up with. And it'll definitely be in the situation where, you know, digitalization and all the other efforts will enter their company to really spruce it up, but it'll also become a business for them like renewable energy is, and they have got vast tracts of land. So one wonders whether there won't be a situation in South Africa now. People are all land conscious. They're wanting to put people on the land. They want them to grow food. They want to make sure that they use the best water techniques. So if you get this water technology and food security technology, that could be a wonderful underpin for some of these vast tracts of unused mine land being put to use, perhaps by entrepreneurs or by entrepreneurs with communities around there, which would solve a lot of problems and add to our food security. In other words, make sure that this is really commercial, and the way you do it is you underpin them with these technologies which they are preparing to do.
Meanwhile, ELB says it can leapfrog South Africa into the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, this was very interesting last night. We were at ELB, and there were a lot of media there, and they gave a fantastic presentation. Stephen Myers, the CE, and towards the end of it, they gave us this release on their entry now, firm entry with the partnership with the Internet of Things NEXT. So it's IoT.NXT. And interestingly, you know, the person, Eric Crisser, who is leading this company, is also Exxaro. And also interestingly, I understand that one of the shareholders in the IoT.NXT is Sipho Nkosi, you know, the former CEO of Exxaro. So we can see that thought process, and the company itself is also situated in Centurion. So a lot of thinking going around in that company and in that area around, you know, the fourth industrial revolution, how we're going to cope with it. One of the remarks that was passed last night, which I found very profound, was that if, you know, Tiger had introduced this high-tech in its factory at Polokwane, you know, if it had overlain it with Internet of Things, they would have picked up this listeriosis instantly. You know, the listeria would have been picked up. So it shows you that food companies need to get really involved in this. And ELB is looking across the board, you know, to make sure that they can move South Africa into this new fourth industrial revolution. They see South Africa as being an opportune area here because it's been slow in coming through. They're also doing food themselves. They're in minerals, food, so they're across quite a big spectrum, and they're moving with a lot of momentum at the moment. It's an interesting company listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. You know, it'll turn 100 next year because it was part of E.L. Bateman. It's got a nice nucleus of engineers in there that they've retained in South Africa, which is very important because a lot of our engineers left after 2010. And so that has been an interesting next step. You had Exxaro coming out very strongly and saying, you know, this innovation is an imperative for us. We've got to move into it for the good of our shareholders and the good of the business. And then you've got ELB, which has been around 100 years, suddenly showing this spurt right at the pinnacle of the new technology in the same week. It was quite interesting.
Now, just going back to Exxaro, last year it began a 13 billion rand coal expansion program with 3 coal projects and is now ready to step up on 2 coal projects.
Yes. Now, look, they are very firmly in coal. So, you know, I think one of the things they try to put across to their shareholders very firmly is, look, the backbone of our business is coal. It's going to remain so for the next many decades, 40 years going forward. But at the same time, we see an opportunity to link up in this higher technology business. But the big money that we're spending, like 13 billion in the second half of 13 billion rand, the second half of last year, they set that in motion, was on 7 coal projects or 7 coal-related projects. You know, they've got a very big one, GG6 at Grootegeluk. That is going to be an interesting project because it's a higher quality coal that they will be extracting from there and exporting there. So that's going to be very good for them. They've got 2 in Mpumalanga that are on the go now, one being high quality, so that can take them into what we call Richards Bay 1 level of the quality, RB1 coal, where they've been a bit lacking at the moment. They've been in the lower qualities, selling a lot to India. You know, the mix will change once that Belfast project comes through. And then they've been delayed on projects, which is horrific. You know, you think that the government, which is there to promote economic growth, actually delays these projects. You know, you had Eskom delaying the one project at Matla, and then you had the Department of Energy delaying the Thabametsi, which they've been talking about for a long time. They're in the Waterberg, and if you translate Waterberg, Thabametsi is Waterberg, the water mountain. So, you know, I think they've been spending, I've heard about this project for many years now, and it shows you how the red tape in government and the Department of Energy holds these things up, and you find that the project costs a whole lot more. Here you've got a company ready to go in, got an allocation, but they've just got to mark time until they get approval from a state entity like Eskom and a state department like the Department of Energy. So hopefully they have at least seemed to work out a time frame now for Thabametsi coming into the second half of this year, some sort of decision on that. And it's interesting because that links up with the power station, because the the mine there will have low-grade coal, and they need it for a power station, and an independent power producer is going to set up there. That's why they need that Department of Energy sanction on this. And with Eskom, I think that was just, there were some tight relationships between Exxaro and Eskom under the old leadership. They're very happy now with Eskom's new leadership. They call it, they say it's like a breath of fresh air in dealing with Eskom. And they are the biggest provider of coal to Eskom, so you would think that Eskom would have rolled out a red carpet for them, but it wasn't like that. And the new leadership sees how important they are and is starting to roll out a red carpet. And of course, Eskom needs to do that. I mean, we're all dependent on the way they operate, and they are a bit short of coal at the moment, given that hiccup with Tegeta and the Gupta link there. So I can see why they're making sure that they don't, just cause another disruption along the line and make their suppliers unhappy. So they're making them happy. And I can remember a long time ago, a decade ago, coal mining companies were saying, but why is Eskom not signing new contracts with us? People have been concerned for a long time. And I'm sure that we could have had much better deals from a national point of view. The coal wouldn't have been as high priced if they'd struck these deals. And the old deals we had were fantastic. You'd have a mine and it would go, it would send its coal on conveyor belt straight to Eskom. Now we got it trucked around. They're ruining the roads. I mean, they really haven't done South Africa a good turn by the way they've managed Eskom, and hopefully it'll change now.
Let's hope. Thanks for speaking with us, Mark.
It's a great pleasure, Sashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on South Africa's mining industry.